The game you're watching me play right now is called Panda Ball, and it's just one of 3 games that we're going to be talking about in this review. Now that I've played through more than 100 hours of Persona 5 Royal, it's time to take a look at a few of the smaller, and thankfully shorter, games that I've been playing. Those include the 2D platformer Wenjia, an obstacle-filled racing game called Tract Mayhem, and the aforementioned Panda Ball. Oh boy, we have a lot to get to in this episode and not much time, so let's take a trip to a magical forest filled with bunnies, turtles, and one magical cat. This is Wenjia. How far do you think your cat would go to save your life? Well, you might as well not even answer that rhetorical question because it's clearly not as far as the lead kitty goes in Wenjia, the 2018 platformer that is just now scratching its way onto the Nintendo Switch. This is a short yet effective side-scroller that sees our feline heroes jump between 2 different realms in order to save a bunch of rabbits. It's just like Ikaruga, only without all the bullets. We learn at the start that the Loco Roco-shaped bunnies are in danger after an evil force has brought death and destruction to their peaceful forest. With volcanoes erupting and lava burning everything in its path, they turn to a cat-shaped energy entity for help. As it turns out, this was a good idea because this is not your usual kitty. It's agile and able to double jump to safety. More importantly, the cat is able to switch between the material world and energy world with a blink of an eye, utilizing the different realms to successfully avoid the game's many obstacles. As a mechanic, this isn't all that difficult to wrap your head around. The typical puzzles involve you having to switch between realities on the fly in order to jump into portals and open up gates. A common difference between worlds is that one will have our hero floating high above platforms on a heavy gust of wind, while the other realm will be completely calm. There are also enemies to look out for and traps that you'll want to avoid. But for the most part, these types of puzzles make up a bulk of the 2-hour runtime. Although it's gorgeous to look at and the story is more thought-provoking than I anticipated, I found that Wenjia was too short and ended just when it was starting to get good. With only a couple of different locations, the kitty's adventure didn't feel as epic or substantial as it should, and the puzzles didn't evolve far beyond what you saw in the first few minutes. It was exciting when I earned the ability to double jump, but disappointing when I realized that was it for new moves. You know, even with the power to jump between 2 different worlds, Wenjia feels awfully familiar. You've seen these obstacles, enemies, and puzzles before, and not enough is done with the admittedly cool special abilities. That said, there's no denying that the graphics are stunning. I love the hand-drawn look of the forest, and the lava-filled volcanoes are genuinely terrifying. Wenjia is a solid 2D platformer with a gorgeous presentation and familiar puzzles. It's not an essential purchase, but definitely worth playing when it goes on sale. So, when I loaded up Panda Ball for the first time, my mind raced with the possibilities. I mean, besides bamboo and kung fu, I have no idea what kind of things pandas are into. So color me disappointed when I discovered that this new game from first-time developer PandaBall Apps was nothing more than soccer with furry animals. What's even more disappointing is that this unimaginative sports game is broken to the point where I wasn't even able to finish it. So frustrating. Don't be fooled by the name, because Panda Ball is nothing more than an arcadey 4-on-4 version of soccer, or football if you prefer. 5-on-5 if you include the goalies. The jungle fields are much smaller than the usual pitch, which does a good job of speeding up the action and leading to high-scoring games. We get the usual assortments of basic offensive and defensive moves, along with a few high-level maneuvers that make this game slightly deeper than something like FIFA Street or Super Sidekicks. Now, what sets Panda Ball apart from those other soccer games is that it includes a few different power-ups, which, let me tell you, can often be the difference between winning and losing. You'll find items littering the field that'll boost your speed and make every goal worth twice as much. There are also power-ups that will negatively impact the opponent, such as luring uncontrolled pandas and transforming the other team into babies. But even with these different items and pandas, I couldn't get beyond the fact that this is just soccer with animals. And I mean, outside of the locations, there's really no reason why it had to be pandas. You can swap in monkeys or sloths or pretty much any other kind of furry creature and you wouldn't have to change all that much. Look, I'm fine with them riffing on soccer, but it sure would have been nice to see them do more with either the animals or the sport. Unfortunately, that isn't the only issue I have with Panda Ball. As I mentioned at the top, this game is broken. The painfully straightforward single-player campaign has this bug that makes everybody run in place for no reason. You can't move or pass the ball or really anything useful. The athletes just run in place waiting for the time to run down. Ugh, it's infuriating. Especially if you're behind and trying to milk that clock for all it's worth to get as many points as possible. Now seriously, this happened to me so much that I ultimately gave up on the road to victory and retired from the Panda Ball League altogether. So without the bugs, I probably would have given Panda Ball a tepid recommendation. Although it doesn't do much with the theme, it's still a fast and enjoyable game of soccer. I like that it's easy to control and has a few different tricks up its sleeve, ultimately leading to a much deeper experience than I was expecting. Too bad the developers don't do a whole lot to justify the pandas being there, and it's annoying how bare bones this game is. Even if you're a fan of both soccer and panda bears, you're just better off waiting until the game-breaking bugs are squashed. Made by first-time developer Best Free Games Inc., you might expect that the new PlayStation 4 racing game Tract Mayhem would be, well, free. It's not. Although it's free on iOS devices, the console port will set you back a whole $5. Yeah, that's not a lot, but I can't help but feel a little duped by the company name. This is definitely one of those situations where I probably would be a lot more willing to overlook all of the shortcomings if it were free. But it's not, so this is the review you get. At first glance, Tract Mayhem looks a lot like a low-budget version of Wipeout. You control a futuristic hovercraft speeding through round tunnels and avoiding obstacles. It's a racing game in the sense that you're controlling a car, but you're never competing against other drivers. You'll mostly just whip around the levels trying to avoid running into walls and picking up coins. It's basically a new and less violent take on the old game Stun Runner. Now, there are 10 challenging stages to race through, each with their own slightly different thing that you have to avoid. Many of these levels will have you racing inside of the hexagon, but there are also stages that'll open things up and let you speed over the outside of the shape. This is where things get tricky because the randomized levels tend to hide obstacles in annoying and unfair locations. The good news is that you can shield yourself from hits as well as jump over some of the smaller walls lining the track. More importantly, you can crash a few times before being forced to restart the stage. But what I quickly discovered is that I could only play this game in short doses. There's just something about the repetition that got to me after a while, forcing me to take breaks and recharge. But even with playing it in short bursts, Tract Mayhem proved to be a short and ultimately unsatisfying experience. It does everything it's supposed to and nothing more. It lacks a personality and will be easily forgotten, but it doesn't do anything particularly wrong. It succeeds at what it's trying to be, which is a short and simple iOS game that can be given away for free. However, as a $5 release on the PlayStation 4, I would think twice about jumping into Tract Mayhem. Hey, thanks for watching these reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. What games will you be playing this weekend? Is it going to be Resident Evil 3 or Persona 5 Royal or an old school classic, maybe something I've never heard of? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, I still have a lot of catching up to do, so expect another one of these 3-in-1 reviews next week, where I look at a trio of job simulators. I'm also gearing up for a big announcement about upcoming shows dedicated to Electronic Gaming Monthly. I know a lot of you are excited about that. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.